Hello and welcome to this episode of Wintercode Weekly. This is Nate broadcasting to you live from sunny Tokyo, Japan, where we are in the middle of a very warm summer. For this week's episode of Wintercode Weekly, I wanted to share some resources that I have been using for improving my knowledge of the Rust programming language, which in turn helps me to learn more about the Solana ecosystem. So first things first, let's talk a little bit about some resources for Solana development. Right off the bat, there's a course, if you haven't heard about it already on Twitter, called the Solana Development Course, being created by some very knowledgeable Solana devs. This course is a work in progress, but there are currently 4 modules taking you from the basics of doing client-side interaction with Solana all the way to intermediate Solana program development. This I find to be a great way to kind of dive in to doing Solana smart contract development. There is an online IDE which is used in some of these modules, which makes it a lot easier to actually dive right into programming without having to set up a bunch of stuff locally. I'll put links to all of these resources in the description of this video as well. But if you want to do any sort of Solana development, you have to learn the Rust programming language if you don't know it already. And what I want to do real quick is share some great resources for that. Some of these resources are free and some of them are also paid. So let's start with the free ones. The Rust programming language is great. It'll take you from 0 to being relatively competent using Rust. In particular, I recommend the later chapters on smart pointers. There's some discussion around how closures work in Rust. And then lastly, this final chapter, chapter 20, shows you how to build a multi-threaded web server in Rust. It's a great opportunity to work with threads in Rust, to work with applied closures. So really, really good book. If you're just curious with Rust and you've already got a pretty good basic knowledge of a language, I'd recommend just starting with this chapter and working backwards whenever you meet a concept you don't understand, but totally up to you how you choose to learn the language. The Rust Nomicon is another free resource which goes into a little bit more detail on some topics, kind of specialty topics that are not covered in the main Rust book. This next one is a personal favorite of mine, Rust for Rust Stations. I cannot say enough nice things about this book. Unfortunately, it's not for free. You do have to pick up a paid copy of it, although the first chapter on foundations is free. And this chapter has, I think, the best description of memory and also topics like ownership in Rust. So it's a free. You can get the first chapter for free. You'll learn about the differences between how Rust stores things on the stack versus the heap. Then there's some discussion of ownership and lifetimes as well. So this is a very, very nice free resource. And if you're looking for a paid resource, I strongly recommend picking up this book. You can see here with the table of contents, it goes into a variety of very, very useful topics. And it goes into them with quite a bit of depth as well. I think the focus of this book is really geared at developers who want an in-depth understanding of these things. Rust in Action, also a very good book for getting your hands dirty with some more systems programming. This book is really cool because it will try to help you build a basic computer in software from scratch using Rust. So you'll go through things like implementing basic memory, implementing a very basic microprocessor. And I think that that's a wonderful way to learn more about the fundamentals of computing while also constantly honing your Rust skills. And then these next couple of resources I have not actually fully read yet, but I am looking forward to going through them in detail. Black Hat Rust, which purports to be a book about offensive security with the Rust programming language. Again, I personally learn better when I'm trying to learn a language if I can build things with it and do stuff in it, which are applied. So this book has some very interesting topics like how to build a web scraper, how to do some network sniffing and network programming in Rust. So looks very promising. To just give a quick shout out to is this book on operating systems, 3 Easy Pieces. As I've been learning more about Solana and in turn learning more about Rust, In systems programming, I've been realizing that I need to go back and kind of refresh my memory on some fundamental concepts like processes and threads and virtual memory. And this Operating Systems 3 Easy Pieces book does a very nice kind of, how would I say, informal overview of those concepts. So if you need a refresher on any of those, strongly recommend this resource. That is it for this Wintercode Weekly. I will post links to these in the description. If you have any questions or if you have any topics you'd like to see featured on this, please let me know. A little bit of news, I am working on a series of in-depth courses. They're going to be video courses on building smart contracts for both the Ethereum blockchain as well as the Solana blockchain. The first one is going to be on building your own NFT minting system completely from scratch. I'm hoping to have that released in the next couple of weeks. It will be entirely free, so please keep an eye out for that. And thank you very much.